Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda.
Hare Krishna, welcome back. This is the channel Bhagavad-gita. Here it is, because we have Bhagavad-gita here, and we are reading this version, Bhagavad-gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and my name is Labanga Latika. And we have come to the 4th chapter, Transcendental Knowledge, where we are learning all sorts of things, and especially we learn more about Krishna's position in this world and outside. And today I'm reading text 14. Namang karmani limpanti name karma phale spriha iti mam yo bhijanati karma bhirna sabadhyate. There is no work that affects me, nor do I aspire for the fruits of action. One who understands this truth about me also does not become entangled in the fruitive reactions of work. So this is Krishna speaking to Arjuna. He just mentioned in the previous verse, Krishna, that he is not part of this human society, and here we hear more about it. Because the law of karma, chapter 3 spoke about karma yoga, and it's all about actions and reactions. So when we do something, there is a result. For Krishna, on Krishna's part, that is simply not truth, because he's not under the laws of material nature. He's not conditioned by this world and by matter in any way, shape or form. And even especially historically when he was there, he looked like another man, maybe a powerful man, maybe a very beautiful man, maybe very special, but he kind of looked like everybody else. And here he's pointing out that he really isn't like everybody else. And this is one major difference. Purport: as there are constitutional laws in the material world stating that the king can do no wrong, or that the king is not subject to the state laws, similarly the Lord, although he is the creator of this material world, is not affected by the activities of the material world. He creates and remains aloof from the creations, whereas the living entities are entangled in the fruitive results of material activities because of their propensity for lording it over material resources. The proprietor of an establishment is not responsible for the right and wrong activities of the workers, but the workers are themselves responsible. The living entities are engaged in their respective activities of sense gratification, and these activities are not ordained by the Lord. For advancement of sense gratification, the living entities are engaged in the work of this world, and they aspire to heavenly happiness after death. The Lord, being full in himself, has no attraction for so-called heavenly happiness. The heavenly demigods are only his engaged servants. So this is a little bit of a new perspective. Or maybe it's not new. I mean, after all, we've been reading through a rather large portion of the Bhagavad-gita, so we've heard these concepts before. But fruitive activity means we do an activity in order to enjoy the result. And here the example is given, and we have that in Sweden also. I mean, our royal family, our king, they don't have any practical powers. They don't have any practical position in society. They are more like a little bit of a decoration. They do something, yes, but they don't run society as such. But the laws are still there. You can't bring the king in under the laws. You don't bring him into court and charge him with a fine or something. In his youth, he used to be something of a car enthusiast, and he used to drive very fast. He would not get tickets because his position stopped that. And another example that maybe is a little more modern, but if you're a gamer, if you are engaging in what you call them, video games, but computer games, you know that your scope is kind of narrow. You have access to certain range of activities, and according to your character or your previous activity where you have been building up some I don't know, weapons or abilities or whatever, depending on your game, you can do different things, but you cannot go outside of that. I mean, of course, the oldest games is just one line, and you go very linear from the beginning to the end. You could not deviate at all. More modern games, you can kind of wander around a little bit aimlessly. You cannot wander outside of the code. You cannot jump ahead in the story. You have to go through the different stages. The creator of the game can do whatever he wants. He's not at all limited by that game. And Krishna is like that. He's the creator of the game. We are here, we're playing our characters in these bodies, we're getting our different reactions according to our activities, we're building up our different levels, and sometimes we die. So it's very similar to a computer game, only we are not as detached. We don't turn off the machine and go to bed. We go through the whole life never even realizing we're part of a game. Krishna, not conditioned by this at all. He can act exactly as he likes in this world, which we cannot do. And therefore, the Vedas, and also religions in general, from a modern perspective, sometimes it just looks like it's very limiting, many rules, many you shall not and you shall not and all of that. And we don't relate to it. The point is, religions are Krishna's attempts of helping us not getting too entangled in the bad karma, in the bad reactions, and helping us stay afloat in this world that is a very complicated, strange place. But he himself, he's not bound by these laws at all. Of course, he will also not break them as such, because he's also showing an example, but sometimes he does things that are a little bit outside of the realm of a pious religious person, because he's not a pious religious person, he's God. He has a direct relationship to each and every one of us living entities. It's not just ritualistic, it's not just good behavior, it's not just piety. It's the actual core thing is that love between God and the living entities. The heavenly demigods are his servants. The proprietor never desires the low-grade happiness such as the workers may desire. He is aloof from the material actions and reactions. For example, the rains are not responsible for different types of vegetation that appears on the earth, although without such rains there is no possibility of vegetative growth. Vedic Smriti confirms this fact as follows. Nimittamatram evashu stridyanang sarga karmani pradhana karani bhuta yato vaishridya shaktaya. In the material creation, the Lord is only the supreme cause. The immediate cause is material nature, by which the cosmic manifestation is made visible. The created beings are of many varieties, such as the demigods, human beings, and lower animals, and all of them are subject to the reactions of their past good and bad activities. The Lord only gives them the proper facilities for such activities and the regulation of the modes of nature, but he is never responsible for their past and present activities. In the Vedanta Sutra it is confirmed, Vaishyamyanair grinyena sapekshatvat. The Lord is never partial to any living entity. The living entity is responsible for his own acts. The Lord only gives him facilities through the agency of material nature, the external energy. Anyone who is fully conversant with all the intricacies of this law of karma or fruitive activities does not become affected by the results of his activities. In other words, the person who understands this transcendental nature of the Lord is an experienced man in Krishna consciousness, and thus he is never subjected to the laws of karma. One who does not know the transcendental nature of the Lord and who thinks that the activity of the Lord are aimed at fruitive results, as are the activities of the ordinary living entities, certainly becomes entangled himself in fruitive reaction. But one who knows the supreme truth is a liberated soul fixed in Krishna consciousness. So that sometimes comes up as a religious person. You get that question. Well, if there is a God, why is there so much suffering in this world? So this is the description, the explanation of how that works. We have come to this world and Krishna has set it up for us, but he has set it up according to certain laws. In the spiritual world there are no such laws. Everything is a dynamic exchange of loving relationship. It's just like if you're in your family and you're in the kitchen and you want to make a cake for your mother, you don't have to buy the ingredients. It's because you make the cake and you give it to your mother. And similarly, in the spiritual world, everything belongs to Krishna, and everything is used in that service, and Krishna is also reciprocating. So it's a very different situation and atmosphere. In this material world, we're all here trying to establish our own little kingdom where we are the supreme controller in different ways, and therefore we don't go to the family kitchen when we want to eat something. We grow some food or we buy some food and we become responsible. So when we have some suffering, it's because we have created that suffering previously. And then we sometimes hear, that makes you callous. You just look at people and think, it's all your karma. No, it's just like if you're a doctor and somebody comes to you and you find out that they have lung cancer. You're not going to, out of a misplaced level of compassion, not tell him what causes lung cancer. Of course, you already have the cancer. It probably doesn't really help. But if we give that knowledge out, if you smoke cigarettes, there's a greater chance of getting your lung cancer. This is not, this is not a cold thing to do. This is not a way of establishing your superiority. This is sharing the knowledge that may help people not develop the lung cancer. But once you have it and you come to the doctor, he will still do his best to treat your disease and to help you. But to just pretend there is no cause and effect is not going to help anyone. Of course, we don't want to become that person. It's just your karma. You can go and suffer on your own. That's not where we're going with this. But if we understand this world, if we understand this structure, then it's very helpful. But then we also have to understand, just understanding the structure of the material universe is not the full picture, because the full picture includes Krishna and it includes us, and we are living entities, and the soul is not bound by the karma. It's just we're just living here in this world, and we're on this cycle of karmic actions and reactions, but we don't have to stay here. And Krishna, he's never bound by that. He comes to this world out of his own free will to kind of introduce himself to us, so we have the access to this knowledge. I think I want to read another verse because it looks a little short and it's kind of connected. Evam gyatva kritam karma purvairapi mumukshubhi kuru karmaiva tasmatvang purvatarang kritam. This is text 15. All the liberated souls in ancient time acted with this understanding of my transcendental nature. Therefore you should perform your duty following in their footsteps. So here Krishna gives a little pointer to Arjuna. Purport, there are two classes of men. Some of them are full of polluted material things within their hearts, and some of them are materially free. Krishna consciousness is equally beneficial for both of these persons. Those who are full of dirty things can take to the line of Krishna consciousness for gradual cleansing, following the regulative principles of devotional service. Those who are already cleansed of the impurities may continue to act in the same Krishna consciousness, so that others may follow their exemplary activities and thereby be benefited. Foolish persons or neophytes in Krishna consciousness often want to retire from activities without having knowledge of Krishna consciousness. Arjuna's desire to retire from activities on the battlefield was not approved by the Lord. One need only know how to act. To retire from the activities of Krishna consciousness and sit aloof making a show of Krishna consciousness is less important than actually engaging in the field of activities for the sake of Krishna. Arjuna is here advised to act in Krishna consciousness, following in the footsteps of the Lord's previous disciples, such as the sun god Vivasvan, as mentioned herein before. The Supreme Lord knows all his past activities as well as those of persons who acted in Krishna consciousness in the past. Therefore he recommends the act of the sun god, who learned this art from the Lord some millions of years before. All such students of Lord Krishna are mentioned here as past liberated persons engaged in the discharge of duties allotted by Krishna. So we come back to the point. Arjuna is standing in front of a battlefield and he doesn't understand how to deal with that. And Krishna gives him instructions, and Arjuna kind of feel that they are a little bit all over the place, and he wants Krishna to bring them back so that he can put them into practice. And for our part also, sometimes we read Bhagavad-gita and it seems to be about this thing and about that thing, and they're all very interesting, but how do we bring them back to a specific point where we can actually do something about them? And here is one such place where it says, when you have found out what is your duty, you can keep acting in that duty. It creates a certain level of peacefulness. You know who you are and what you do, but you do it for Krishna. So if you are not on a very advanced level of Krishna consciousness, if you don't have, a pure realization of your relationship to Krishna, which means most of us, then we are happy to find some kind of structure and for our spiritual life. And that structure within the Varnashram society, it also includes our daily life. We do our things, we do our practical things, but we do it with the understanding of our nature, of Krishna's nature, and of our service to Krishna. And then that solves the whole paradox. How can we live in the material world and be spiritual entities? How can we act here and make spiritual advancement? That's how we do it. We follow Krishna's instruction. Those instructions are not just, A, B, C. Do this, do that, do that. But it also includes the internal work of starting to meditate on Krishna, starting to understand his nature, his position, and at the same time going about our own duties, and that makes it actually work. But it's not, it's not like a trivial thing. It's not a very simple thing. We need to have a kind of perspective that includes many things at the same time. But this is how they connect. And it's actually very practical. Most of us are not on the battlefield, but we all have something to do. And some things we can combine with our Krishna consciousness. But unless we have some kind of Krishna consciousness to combine it with, it will not be complete. It will not be fully satisfying, and it will not be a steady platform for us in our life. And this is something we may not just, we can't just spend 10 minutes thinking, okay, I'm balancing it up, now it's all perfect. No, but this is like the principle upon which we build that balance, we build that life. And Krishna is giving it to Arjuna, and he's also inviting us as well. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for watching. We aim for updates every Tuesday and Friday. Please come back. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down there. We also have some links and information for you. And there is, of course, the subscribe button. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
I'm a Hare Krishna, and I approve this message. Subscribe.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.